is becoming stronger as she loses herself to the heart. My own abilities weren't this strong before either. The scary part is how natural it feels.
To my shame, it appears that I cannot entirely block the Skullheart's influence.
Don't feel bad, Leviathan. We couldn't have made it this far otherwise.
Hello, my fellow readers. I Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, the link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to that channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, I have two stories today. The first one is Project Motherhood Squigly by Betamaster 54610. Oh god, this guy is living in the late 2000s where everything has to have numbers because cool factor. This is a Harry Potter and Skullgirl crossover. That's actually why I showed the little cutscene at the beginning, kind of get you in the mood for the Skullgirl stuff, because Skullgirls is arguably one of, if not my favorite fighting game in ever. I just really love the gameplay, and the main character of the story, Squigly, is actually like one of my mains. But yeah, let's actually get started. So, what is the plot of Project Motherhood? Well, Project Motherhood is essentially a found family fanfiction. In essence, a found family more or less follows very similar trajectories. Someone, usually a kid, ends up being abused by someone, or various other factors, but most of the time it's usually abuse. They running away from an abusive family. They find a new family or a group of people that kind of slowly become together and become a family themselves. And then usually somewhere near the end, the old family shows up. They get their just desserts, and the kid is happy that he finds a new family. There's more nuance than what I'm saying. I'm basically just giving a very Cliff Notes version of found family fan fictions or found family stories in general. But that's more or less the gist of it. However, before I actually get into the actual plot, I need to actually frame specifically who Squigly is as a character. So, this is Squigly, otherwise known by her real name, Sienna Cantiello, is what I believe the first DLC character introduced in Skullgirls. Skullgirls had a weird thing with DLC. They had like a couple DLC characters, I believe Squigly, Fukua, and Big Band, and I think Eliza. Oh, and Miss Robo Fortune, like very early in the game's lifestyle, and then over a decade later, they made like a season pass, and they released like 5 more new characters. It was really weird. But Squigly, I believe, is the first DLC character of Skullgirls. Either her or Big Band, one of the two. But I believe it is Squigly. Squigly, or Sienna, as I'm going to refer to her usually, is actually part of the Cantiello clan. They're basically a gigantic family of opera singers who basically travel the land of New Meridian and also the entire Canopy Kingdom and maybe even the world. And they just go to people who have very influential power, who are very affluent in wealth, and they just sing for them. Sienna's backstory involves her mother's birthday party. Now, they were basically having just a simple birthday party. Sienna's mother is just, getting gifts, getting lush praise on her by the entire Cantiello family, when this mysterious woman, who we later find out is double another character in the lore, gives her a present, and inside the present is the Skull Heart. Now, the Skull Heart basically is his more or less evil wishful MacGuffin, and and only like girls can wish on it. It's actually never explained why girls can only wish on it. It just kind of is. That appears once every 7 years, and whenever the Skull Heart does appear, a lot of unscrupulous women try to grab it. Whenever they try to make a wish, the Skull Heart actually does make the wish, usually without complaint, but as a consequence, whoever makes the wish becomes the Skull Girl. Double basically gave the Skull Heart to Sienna's mother to basically enforce a wish upon her. It's like, I want to cause the most pain possible. Here's a gift. She opens a gift. It's a Skull Heart. Make the wish. However, as a failsafe, Double also informs the Medici Mafia, who is this gigantic underground criminal organization that basically rules all of New Meridian. Basically, the party takes place in the New Meridian Cantiello Opera House. They proceed to crash the party, led by Black Dahlia, Lorenzo Medici's right hand woman. They start murdering the entire party, ending with Sienna taking a grenade shot straight to the head in a pretty gruesome sight. Like, no, this is how she gets shot. She just gets right through the head. Sienna's father has a parasite named Leviathan, this little skeletal bone thing, who is actually a family guardian of sorts, and so he asks Leviathan, protect my daughter. At the same time, overwrought with despair, Sienna's mother makes a wish on the Skull Heart to protect her family, wanting her entire family to come together at once. The Skull Heart makes her wish. However, since everyone technically died, the best the heart can really do is make everyone a zombie. Sienna's mother immediately becomes the Skull Girl, and she tries to attack, and she basically attacks everyone. Thanks to Leviathan, Squigly is actually resistant to the effects of the Skull Heart. And so Sienna wakes up, works with Leviathan, kills her own mother, and then since the Skull Heart is gone, Sienna dies. Basically, that's kind of like the part and parcel of Sienna's character. Every 7 years, when the Skull Heart wakes up, she wakes up. When the Skull Heart goes away, she dies to be woken up to essentially wake up once the Skull Heart arises. This is actually very important because it's actually a plot point. It is 2 years since not the Skull Girl from the current that happens in the game, who's a girl named Marie, but a Skull Girl after it. So 7 years have passed since the events of the game, and then another 2 years pass after that. Now we get back to the plot of the story. Now that you know everything about that. Squigly wakes up completely confused in a cemetery. She realizes, wait a minute, I woke up. Oh, the Skull Heart must be back. Her and Leviathan dig up. They rise out of the cemetery because, again, everyone was kind of assuming, she wouldn't wake up for another 5 years. She looks around the cemetery. She finds a little toddler Harry Potter, and she's just completely confused. She realizes, wait, there's no Skull Girl stuff. All I see is a little kid just crying in the cemetery. What do we do? My dear, let us take care of the baby. And in essence, Squigly and Leviathan co-oply decide, we're just going to help the kid out. Just kid's crying, let's try to cheer the kid up. She picks up Harry. She notices that he's very emancipated and realizes something's really wrong with him. It's like, okay, maybe like Philly and the other people are still around because it's, even like 7 years, like anything can happen. They come met by Big Band or Ben Birdland, otherwise known as.
Oh my goodness! Happy birthday! That's not gonna kill, but that's gonna kill.
Yeah, that guy, and also Peacock, who is another main of the game I play. And they realize, wait a minute, You're alive? How are you awake? It's been like only 2 years since you kind of died. And this is kind of like one of the two main plot threads of the story is the fact that no one really knows why Sienna is awake this early, and the other plot line being that what happened with Harry, which leads us into the Harry Potter side of the plot. Basically, a lot of Harry Potter fan fictions, for whatever reason, I don't know why, really like to ramp up the abuse that Harry suffers at the hands of Dursleys. Why? I don't know. Maybe they just get some kicks out of like going over the top. I know like a lot of fandoms actually do that. Naruto does it. Harry Potter does it. Psych does it for some reason. There's a lot of Psych fan fictions where like John Spencer just gets hurt. No idea why. Just I don't know. But there is also a sort of risk when it comes to abuse that genuinely follows the idea of don't take it too far. And this is honestly one of my two complaints about the story is the abuse kind of goes a little over the top. So like, okay, throughout the story, it's revealed that Harry gets abused by his family. Okay, so what is the specific abuse? Well, he gets beat up. Okay, that's fine, the standard abuse. He gets neglected. All right, standard fine. And then we get the specifics. He gets hit with belts. He gets hit with sandals and shoes with possible spoons. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's standard abuse stuff. A cricket bat. All right, they're in England, so I was like, okay, the cricket bat, kind of weird. To be hitting on an 8-year-old boy, fine. And then Harry goes, "Oh, I was also hit by a 2x4 covered in nails." And when I read that, it's like, why? Like, if it was an older kid, I understand. But Harry's like implied to be like pretty young in the story, like 8 at the most, like 7 and 8 around that age. How did he survive? How does he survive a 2x4 covered in nails? Because he probably died by then. It's like, okay, it can't get. Oh, he was attacked by dogs too. It's like period, like continue, like a lot. Like, okay, what? Now, okay, I can see the dogs because you can train attack dogs to like only bite and not rent, but that's even stretching it even farther. And then Harry goes, "Oh, I was also shoved in the oven." It's like, how? Okay, is the oven on? Okay, that it's never actually revealed if the oven was on. It's just, oh, he was just shoved in the oven. That's okay, fine. Also, he was forced to drink chemicals, which is like, what? You're forcing an 8-year-old, 8-year-old to drink chemicals, which would definitely kill the kid. That's a little too much. That's overkill. The Nils is like, okay, you're stretching as far as you can go. That's even crazy, even by that standard. But then the chemicals come in. It's like, now you're just overkill. Now you're just kind of making it comical on like how much abuse he's taking. Everything I can take. I can even understand the dogs to an extent. If the dogs were trained to like only bite, it's like, okay, just bite the kid, bite the leg. Okay, they just have to deal with like bite wounds, but nothing like missing skin or muscle or like blood or something like that. Well, it's just kind of weird. I don't know. It's just a weird decision. I get that, you want to make the author wanted to make the Dursleys like really deplorable people, but again, there's such a thing as tact and knowing when to go far and when not to go too far. But back to the whole plot of the story. Sorry, I had to actually go on that tangent, but it was actually I needed to kind of tell you that. When Squigly finds this out, it's like, okay, we're going to help this kid. So Sienna, Leviathan, the parasite that comes out of Squigly, Philia, Sarabella, all these other Skullgirl characters, they kind of meet up with Sienna. They see the kid, they go, "Oh, you're so cute," and basically just give like head pats and kisses and stuff like that. It's like we're gonna have fun, and they all agree to basically act as like a big sort of family towards Harry, kind of cheer him up, and that's more or less how the story follows. It's just basically everyone kind of crowding about all these Skullgirls characters crowding around Harry, giving him lots of love and attention, and him just getting more happy, and Sienna even finally someone like a family after she lost hers after so long. It's a really wholesome story. And I think it's done really well, except at the very end where we get to chapter 5. What happens in chapter 5? Well, like I said at the beginning with lost families and how they work, the family that the kid ran away from usually comes back. That's what happens in the last chapter. The Dursleys show up coincidentally at the hotel that Philia is actually running. Basically, Philia runs a hotel because she was actually a member of the Medici Mafia, and she kind of forgot. I will say as like a quick aside, this story specifically seems to follow the comic version of Skullgirls. The games and comic books are like two different storylines. So everything you see in the games may not necessarily be one for one in the comic books. The comic books actually have a kind of retelling of Sienna's backstory. Basically, the same thing happens up until Sienna fights her mother. It's not just Sienna; it's Big Band, guy named Panzerfast again, a girl named Violet, and then of course Annie of the Stars, who's basically sort of immortal, and she's also like the only one who kind of knows who Harry Potter is because she's like not old, and she's like, oh, the boy who lived. I don't think I should tell them that. But more or less, everything kind of just follows the same way. Squigly trying to find a life to raise Harry in, and kind of give him like the family and love that she lost and wanted again, and also find family that Harry truly deserves. The last chapter happens. The Dursleys show up at the hotel. They start completely destroying the place. And basically just shit-talking everyone and just treating everyone like trash. It's already established throughout the entire story that once they find out that, the Dursleys actually abused Harry, they all silently agreed, if we come across them, they gotta die. They're gonna straight up die. And just murder. I think this will tell you more than I would.
I'm gonna go to the backyard, okay? Get my butcher knife, chop the branch, chop the stick from the tree, very long one, and I'm gonna have to whip a bitch. I'm gonna have to whip you. I'm gonna have to whip you.
Just randomly piss the entire staff off. So Squigly, Big Band, because he's kind of just visiting to see Sienna sing. Fang, Sarabella, the entire workers, and it's like, okay, employee meeting is like everyone's like, okay, what's going on? And Sienna's like, you've been dealing with a rude family. Yes. They're the people who abused Harry, and of course, the moment they hear that, they just go, they die. They gotta die. It's like, we don't want to cause an incident because they're from another country. It's like, what do we do? We want to kick their asses, but what do we do? Then they realize, oh, wait a minute, Ben's in the hotel, isn't he? Like, oh, you're right, we can arrest him. They call Big Ben. Big Ben's apparently actually right out the door when they like, Ben Birdland, can you come to the hotel? It's like, I'm already here. It's like, why are you here? I wanted to issue a complaint about that family of jokers who've been pissing me off since they got here. Where can I file a complaint? They're the people who were who abused Harry. Oh, they did. Oh, they're the ones who did that, huh? Oh, they're gonna die. Then they find out that Harry's there. Uncle Vernon, tries to, abuse Harry, thinking, oh, it's just a little stick figure of a girl. What's she gonna do? Well, she's gonna break his arm, beat the shit out of him, and just punish him everything. It's like, no, you touch my son, oh, I'm gonna make you suffer, and then basically just beat the shit out of Vernon for like unspecified time. And then Sarabella kind of throws Aunt Petunia through a wall. How she doesn't die from that, I don't know. Don't question it. And then apparently Dudley gets like beaten off screen by like implied to be a kid. I'm gonna guess it's this girl because she's the only kid I can think of that could possibly beat up a boy. We don't know. That's actually never revealed. That leads me to like my other complaint about this story. It's like this is just kind of underwhelming with how much they've built up trying to everyone wanting to beat up like the Dursleys over the course of 60,000 plus words. Having it actually happen kind of just comes off as, I don't know, disappointing because they just kind of like there's no real feeling of catharsis there for some reason. I don't know if it's just me or if it's like the author kind of didn't live up to expectation of what the author was trying to pull with like building up the abuse and the Dursleys and everyone wanting to beat him up. But I just don't think the beating didn't land. The beating kind of had to happen. Usually, like I said, with these types of stories, the whole family has to get some comeuppance. That's more or less what they're there for. The moment they show up, get comeuppance. So the getting beat up was expected. I just don't think the delivery works. How you nail the delivery is going to be really hard because maybe if we actually seen all three of them get chewed out, you only really see Vernon get chewed out. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll talk about it more at the end. Point is, I do think the finale with them coming on to the Dursleys underwhelming, but I think overall this is just a very wholesome story with like everyone wanting to be there for Harry and just cuddle him and give him cherish. And then of course at the end they realize, hey, we got a found family with Squigly and Auntie Nadia and Auntie Philia and all the workers of the hotel, and even like Uncle Uncle Big Band. Yeah, Uncle Big Band can just play that trumpet of his because like freaking badass. I think it's fine for what it is, but I don't have any more issues on the plot. Character wise, I already talked about Squigly, so I think Squiggly's fine. She just acts like a normal girl. Who had to grow up too early because again she dies at 14, and the events of the actual game happen while she was 28 because the Skull Heart revives every 7 years, and her mother was the Skull Heart before the last Skull Girl, which was Parasol's mother. So there's that, and then so it's Sienna's mom, Parasol's mom, Marie, some unknown Skullgirl, and then 2 years after that. So at this point in the story, she technically would have the body of a 14-year-old with a gigantic ass. That's another thing I don't understand about her design. Why give a 14-year-old that big an ass? So 28 Marie, and then 35. So she'd be 30. She technically would be 37 at this point in the story, if my math's correct. Again, this is more the story follows more of the comic continuity, so so details can be completely different. So I could be wrong on that. But I do think Squigly character is fine. Everyone else is just a vehicle to just cuddle and cherish Harry. They're fine for what they are, and they are functional. they don't really have a lot of character development or a character arc. They do have plenty of depth to them, basically like them interacting with Squigly and Leviathan, how they interact with Harry. I think those are fine. Uh, Harry, similar to like them, he's just there as a vehicle to kind of push the story there. I know it's kind of sad to call Harry Potter a plot device. He technically fulfills that role because he's just kind of too young to kind of act as anything more than that. Again, this is more coming from the fact that he's 7, 8, and like 90% of the story he's in Squiggly's arms. So there's not really much you can realistically do with him that wouldn't involve Squiggly having to get involved or another character just kind of like, oh, so cute, this kissy kisses. So I can't really say too much on Harry specifically. Grammar wise, I think the grammar's fine. Pacing wise, say it's a short, simple found family story. Around 60,000 words is fine. Nothing too complicated. Like there's not really much depth you're looking into the story. It's a overall solid but slightly unspectacular found family pick. I don't have anything more to say about this. So let's actually go on to the next story. Crazy Medicine by B. Obscene. Oh no. What do we have? What do I have to say about this story? Okay. Before I get into this story specifically, I have to talk about what kind of story this is, because what kind of story this is actually very important to the plot. These types of stories are what is called a corruption story. Corruption stories kind of fall into two flavors: sexual or not sexual. Usually these things are not written for fun. Corruption stories are just a very, very niche story because they're more meant, like even the non-sexual stuff, they're meant to fulfill a certain kink sort of deal. So not a lot of people are just not gonna read them off the cuff. They have to go specific. They're gonna be specifically looking for these types of stories. Just kind of how it is. And corruption stories usually follow the idea that you take someone good, you take an outside influence, and they slowly mold them into like a shape of evil. Usually in non-sexual stories, it's like, oh, girl becomes evil. She was a goody two shoes. Now she's like completely evil from this bad like guy slowly like manipulating her into evil. But for this type of story, because Crazy Medicine is a sexual corruption story, it usually involves the character becoming a slut. Preferably someone with like gigantic knockers, big lips, obsessed with sex, the whole 9 yards. It's basically how these types of stories always go when it comes to sexual corruption fics. Except this is not a great sexual corruption fic. So what? Oh my god. Okay. So what is the plot of the story? The story involves. I can easily just look this up, like right here. Let me see if I can get a picture. God dang it. This chick right here at the top. This is Hit Girl. She's one of the characters from Kick Ass, which is actually what is crossover. It's Kick Ass and Suicide Squad. I'm just getting flashbacks, so that's the Rocksteady game. That game was so bad. In this story, oh shit! I didn't realize it zoomed in. Whoops. Kid Girl is trying to be forced to step away from her crime fighting days. Basically, her adoptive father saying, "I don't want you to stay in the crime fighting where you get hurt." It's like, all right, fine, standard stuff. Her adopted father, Marcus, basically hired a therapist to kind of help her step away from the crime fighting stuff into a more civilian life. That doctor is Dr. Harleen Quinzel, otherwise known as Harley Quinn. Wrong button. So Harleen, I'm going to call her Harleen for right now, decides to essentially, act as like a very by the books therapist, trying to help her ease out of the crime fighting life into civilian life. Uh, Harleen does have a slight obsession, but it's nothing really big. It's more painted that at least this Harleen is more of a workaholic sort of deal. Everything kind of just acts very standard until the end of the first story. Right here at the end of the first chapter, she reveals that she works as an actual therapist at like a small clinic dealing with mental health patients. She was helping these guys called Peanut Butter Boys, Skin Eater, and Adult Baby. That's basically their names in this story. She goes to the clinic to meet this doctor named Jane. These three are actually trying to escape, and they wanted revenge on Harleen before they go. So basically, what they did is they all grabbed her. They took her to a machine that uses electrotherapy to kind of help with mental issues, and that's a very controversial decision on why a clinic was using electrotherapy in the first place, because like very dangerous. And then they proceeded to fry her brain. They just completely fry Harleen's brain, and then she actually goes literally insane from that instant. So then you have 4 chapters, no, 1, 2, 3, 5 chapters of now Harley Quinn trying to gaslight Mindy into wanting to fall in love with her, and basically molding her body in what Harley wants. So Harley becomes like her sidekick. This like, we're gonna start up the superhero thing. You're gonna kick him ass. Oh, I also got help from this lady named Pamela Isley to have this cream that basically gives you humongous knockers and a gigantic back door. And you're gonna be my slut and all that. It is by the numbers corruption after that. Here's the problem I have with the plot. Why go through this? Why go through the electrotherapy stuff when the whole point is eventually Harley is just going to corrupt Mindy into becoming a more or less a superhero prostitute? This just kind of paints the wrong picture. It's like, oh, it's trying to invoke sympathy because now Harleen, who is actually a legitimately good person, now goes insane, becomes obsessed with Hit Girl, and wants to corrupt. And even then, like, part of the fun of corruption stories is seeing the person that they're trying to corrupt fight back, whether for how long, like for like a couple minutes, maybe a couple days, and like slowly wearing it down. But instead, the plot has her just accept everything pretty easily. But then you have, but after instantly seeing as she starts obsessing over heroin, will she help her become Hit Girl again or make her return to the dark side? It kind of paints the story as more of a, eventually Mindy has to go back into crime fighting to try and help Harleen. That would have been a slightly more compelling story. Like, it also would have been a better hook on the corruption. Like, either Mindy gets fully corrupted into becoming the slut of Harleen's dreams, or Mindy gets, tries to fight Harley Quinn and try and gets her back into like the good doctor that she used to be. That would have been more compelling. But instead, everyone just kind of like, okay, all right, you have a gigantic knocker, just use them. Okay. Harley, sit on my face. It's like, did you know if I sit on your face, you'll be eating my ass, right? It's like, oh, right. And then later in the story, she just eats her ass. It's just weird. And it doesn't really work because it's like a really weird corruption story because it's trying to paint itself as sympathetic and also kind of tragic. Because every time when when Harley does something to manipulate Hit Girl, you're just constantly reminded of the fact it's like Harleen was basically was used as electroshock therapy to turn this way, and not willingly, she was forced. And so that just kept ringing in my mind when I was reading the story, because that's all I kept thinking about. It's like, okay, are they gonna do something more with this story? Are they gonna have Hit Girl fight back? And she never does, and then the story just kind of ends with them falling in love and just engaging in lots of sexual escapades. It's just like, really? That's it? That's how you end the story? Oh, come on! You could do better than that. So, I'm just a really bad end to the story. I mean, the idea is there. It's just how the execution was handled. I don't know. Characters. I mean, Harley's fine. She acts like the traditional Harleen we're first introduced to in like Batman animated series at first, and then when she gets electroshocked, she turns into like Harley Quinn. She acts like Harley Quinn. I think that's fine. The manipulation is there. It's just Mindy is being an issue because it's just way too easy to get her like enveloped in this whole thing. Like, it's like not even trying to be subtle. It's like, what you need is big boobs. Like, well, big boobs help. It's like big boobs are big boobs. And even like even Harley hires like an Indian prostitute because like, oh hey, I'm gonna try and gaslight you into thinking you're lesbian, and then it just works like way too easy. Which, okay, fine, I can get the orientation sort of deal. It's like, okay, that's fine. But then, oh, you need big boobs because big boobs, big boobs. Like it's way too easy. And even like the only person who does try to help her fight back, Marcus, is just completely like the moment she gets big boobs, thanks to Pamela Isley's cream, it's just basically just rub cream on your boobs and they just get bigger. And he's like, Nate, like, then why would you write him fighting back, even like minimally, or just completely 180 the moment he sees the jugs? Like I get it, boobs are boobs, boobs are boobs, and butt is butt, but you don't. But that doesn't mean the sacrifice of like a whole character assassination just because he saw them boobs. Just because. Like, it's bad writing is bad writing. I don't care what it says. And it's just weird. Like I wouldn't be complaining so much if Mindy fought back in any way, but she doesn't. She just doesn't. Which is like part of the fun of these types of stories. It's just seeing them fight back, and with how the story was framed in the first chapter is like, there's very ample opportunity for her to fight back or even try to help Harley become Harleen. But it doesn't happen. Grammar-wise, I think it's fine. Pacing-wise, I think it's fine too. Corruption stories, unless it's like a really big corruption story, like a large-scale corruption thing, these tend to not be that long. So around 9, anywhere from like 18,000 to like 25,000 at the max is fine for like a single person, depending on what you want to do. I think it's fine. So that's all I really have to say about this. Would I recommend these stories? Project Motherhood, Squigly, yes. I would say if you're into like very wholesome stories, this one's worth it. It's not particularly outstanding, but it serves its job and it's very serviceable enough. Crazy Medicine, no, because the author just completely misses the mark of what makes a good corruption fic, which is the fighting back. How do you miss the most important part of these types of stories and you just not include it when you when you make it very clear you're trying that you are actually attempting to try that just to abandon it. No. It just makes no sense. Favorite part? I would say I don't really have a favorite part for either. I think it doesn't really outstanding. What would I fix? With Crazy Medicine, it's obvious. Just have, if you're going to stick with like she is going to fail, then just have Mindy fight back. Either Mindy or Marcus. Just some more fight back from that. Doesn't matter how it's done, as long as there is some fight back, so that way you get the sensation of her falling into like prostitution sort of deal. That's fine. That's all the story needs. With Squigly, on the other hand, this one's actually slightly more complicated because, like I said, the only real issue I have is the whole Vernon thing. I'm completely fine with everything else being fine, even the other complaints. I'm completely fine with just keeping it there. But with the Vernon stuff, here's how I would do this chapter. Instead of focusing exclusively on Squigly and Harry, rewrite just this chapter. You don't have to change anything before this. Instead of having it start with Squigly and Harry, have it start with the other workers of the hotel. Fang, Sarabella, Philia, regardless, and show us their interactions with the Dursleys. Because the whole point is the Dursleys are going to get beat up at the end of this. That has to happen. But you can make it more worthwhile by actually showing us all the shit the other workers and even Big Ben, if you wanted to, have to deal with before the beat up. So that way it's more worth the pain. Also, have all three members chewed out by different members of the staff. Like, I don't know. Like, you have Squigly and Leviathan chewing out Uncle Vernon, and also technically Philia. You can have Sarabella and, like, Misfortune chewing out Petunia. And with Dudley, just you can have it be Parasol and Umbrella, like a very small cameo, or even just Annie. Like, you could just Annie technically looks like a kid, and he's kind of in the same situation as Squigly. Her parents wish for her to stop aging, so she kind of stopped aging like in her early teens. So you can just have her just beat the ever living daylights out of Dudley. That's fine with me. just build up them getting beat up a little bit more, and actually showing all three of them getting their comeuppance, not just Uncle Vernon. I think that's it. So that is my review on Squigly and Crazy Medicine. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.